Hey, welcome to Bazaar. I know it's been a while, but that's because I've been doing a ton of work around the shop, and I figured now would be a great time to give you a little shop tour, and while we're at it, give a couple reviews of some of my favorite new tools. Let's get started. The first thing I want to talk about are actually these shelves. These shelves are from IKEA, and they weren't originally like this. These are I'm going to call them Bohr, but it's spelled BROR system of storage. They have workbenches and tall racks, and these are actually made out of two tall racks that I cut in half and made four benches out of. I did coat the wood tops with polyurethane to make them a little bit more resilient to spills during my crafting, but they are super sturdy, and I made sure every one of them has a cross beam on the back, a crossbar across the back, and that way all my machines that shake left and right stay perfectly still. There's a lot of different ways to organize your workshop. I chose to have everything that's related to its machine together. So here's my heat press and all my heat generating tools. And here I have my 3D printers, along with my 3D printer filament and all of the tools I need to finish my 3D prints. And even the desiccant I use to keep my AMS dry. The Bambu Lab P1S is the tool I've had the least amount of time, just a few months, but it has been transformative in my day-to-day crafting and in organizing my workshop. I used it to 3D print mounts for all of my power tools and even to hang some of my power tools and organize my wrenches. And it also is great at producing all those lovely 3D printed trinkets. Here is a 3D printed Pokemon in 3 colors that came out absolutely amazing. I actually bought this secondhand with only a few dozen hours on it, so it was like new, but the gentleman had already printed the AMS stand along with some TPU feet to reduce vibrations, although I don't know how much they're required considering this thing already does its own vibration calibration, and I haven't had any issues whatsoever. It works exceedingly well. Inside the AMS, these 3 white boxes are holding desiccant pellets, so they absorb moisture and keep the filament dry. And I also have a small filament dryer right here to revitalize any filament that has become wet from the moisture in the air. I haven't had the opportunity to use anything like ABS or abrasive filaments yet, although I do have the hardened nozzle and everything to be able to do that. So far, I've only used PLA, but it prints like a dream, and I'm super happy with it. I couldn't recommend it more. I was afraid that the basic controls were going to be a little bit annoying, and I really considered that attachment made by a company, I believe it's called Panda, that gives you a touchscreen like the Carbon. But I do almost all my control for the machine through the mobile app, and so there's almost no reason to ever interact with this except for during setup. One thing I've been specifically very happy with is build plate adhesion. I don't need to use any glue or anything like that for my prints to stick to the print bed. Whereas on my CR10S, you can see the print bed is well caked with glue stick. I even keep a stick of glue right next to it whenever I'm ready to print. And that just adds to post-processing when I need to clean the prints after they're done. But on the P1S, I haven't need to use glue at all. And that's including when I use the smooth PEI print bed or the rough PEI print bed. This is my Creality CR10S, and it was my first 3D printer, and I've had it for a little over 6 years now, and it has been super reliable. It has moved across the country with me several times, and it just keeps on kicking. But the Bambu Lab is an improvement in almost every way when it comes to speed, reliability, and the ability to do things like multicolor prints. Its print bed is slightly larger than my Bambu P1S, so I do keep it out still in case I need to do any large prints. I'd say one of the biggest things that's changed with my 3D printing since getting the P1S is my attitude about 3D printing. Previously, if I wanted to print something, it had to be very intentional. I had to really think before I started the job, and most of the time it was an over the night process. So it was design something or get a file ready, set it up to print, and then pray that it doesn't fail overnight. But with the speed that this is able to print, I'm able to on the fly create tools and products that I need in the moment. Prints that would take, again, over the night, so over 8 hours, can take less than an hour on this guy, and it's just as precise, if not even better quality. This is my Omtech Polar, and I've had him for over a year now, so he's not exactly new, but I've been meaning to get my feelings out there for a while, and you've seen him a lot on our channel, but the Polar is overall is a great machine, super convenient to have the water pump and the air compressor all in one machine. It's a 50-watt CO2 machine, and it can cut pretty much anything that I need. It's definitely not a perfect machine, and I have made a few upgrades to it that I'm gonna go over with you. But just to get my overall impressions out of the way, it is a great user-friendly, beginner-friendly machine. And when I am part of all my laser cutting communities, I see people that go for cheaper options or more imported options, often complaining about issues, and I really haven't had many actual mechanical issues with the Polar. I got it delivered through Amazon, so free shipping delivered to my door, which is pretty great. But let's go over some of the things that I've done to help improve my Polar and my use of it, and go over some of the complaints that I have that may or may not be deal breakers for you. First off, you may notice that I have this laptop on a stand right here, and the laptop stand was like 30 bucks off Amazon, super convenient. And this laptop has one job and one job only, and that is running Lightburn for my laser. Now that may sound really excessive, but I was able to actually get this laptop used off of Facebook Marketplace for about $100, and it has made using the Polar so much easier. As you can see, there's no user interface to the Polar, so there is no way to check the status of the machine, see what's going on at all without it being connected to a computer. And if you're using your computer as your main personal laptop along with your work laptop for crafting, you're going to be constantly plugging it in and unplugging it over here. And without a proper place for it, I was always moving it on and off the top of the machine, and that got very annoying very quickly. Next, as you'll see, I raised my Polar quite a bit using 6mm plywood in stacks. And that's because when doing engravings on tumblers and the like using a rotary attachment, there simply isn't enough vertical height to fit underneath the laser head. Here you can see the third-party red dot laser that I installed to be able to pinpoint, locate where the laser is pointing. In my opinion, this is a must-have and honestly should be standard on the Polar. I don't know why it's not. This whole mod costs just a few dollars and is totally worth it. I'll link it in the description below. And last we have the camera, which I can't say anything about, because as far as I can tell from all my research and investigation, the camera does not communicate to Lightburn. And so that makes this camera completely useless. That is really frustrating, especially without the red dot laser. It would be virtually impossible to line up your cuts without making test burns and templates. If they ever make a second edition of the Polar, I think that a Lightburn compatible camera and a red dot laser is an absolute must. The lack of a screen to give status indications is really frustrating because all you get is a red light when something's wrong, but it doesn't tell you what's wrong, and there's no way to know inside Lightburn. I believe Omtech has its own software that it can work with that might give you more information, but the industry standard is Lightburn, and I'm very comfortable with Lightburn, so I'm going to continue to use that. So a status screen would be great. There is a mod for that as well, but I just haven't invested in that yet. Mechanically, I've only had 2 issues, one of which is I found a single drop of coolant, and that's over the last year and a half or so that I've had it. I don't know how a single drop leaked out, but I've checked the coolant level and it is still full. So one snuck out from a seal somewhere somehow. And the second is the air compression hose can get kinked in the faceplate. So I did actually cut a channel to relieve some of that pressure on the hose. And that's about it. So, like I said, overall, a great machine. Very happy with it. Lastly, we have my 2 EcoTank Epson printers. There's not really anything too special about them, but the EcoTank is a must-have. It holds a ton of ink and is just a lot cheaper and more economical than cartridges. And if you've ever tried to do a sublimation conversion on a non-EcoTank printer, it can be a huge hassle. Whereas with these, it is super easy to get bottles of sublimation ink and fill it up, and that's all you need to do. Nothing special at all. You're never truly done working on your shop, and I have always said that I spend 50% on the shop and 50% using the shop. But there you have it. That's the current state of the Bazaar and some of my new favorite toys. I hope that you had fun and learned something, and I've got tons of great projects lined up coming soon, so please stay tuned for that. Go ahead and like and subscribe for more crafting videos, and I'll see you next time at the Bazaar.